Welcome to the new session on information literacy and libraries. Information technology is changing our environment at an increasing rate by providing improved opportunities, required knowledge and skill that are not easily acquired. Once we acquire such knowledge and skill, to keep them up to date is even more difficult. Information literacy is increasingly important in the environment of rapid technological change and proliferating information resources. Too much information can create barriers in our lives. Information literacy is a set of skills needed to find, to retrieve, analyze and use information. It provides skills to know when we need information and where to locate it effectively and efficiently. It enables the users to analyze and evaluate the information they find. The concept of information literacy was first introduced in 1974 by Paul Zakarsky. According to him, people trained in the application of information resources to their work can be called information literate. They have learned techniques and skills for utilizing the wide range of information tools as well as primary resources in molding information. Information literacy. The concepts underlying information literacy are not new. The idea that the students must first decide what type of information they need, figure out where to find the information, consider how to find the information and then determine if the information meets their needs has always been the basis of traditional research cycle. Today, information literacy is no longer limited to the world of librarians and information professionals. It is spreading into the educational community as a whole and more specifically into international organizations such as UNESCO. Information literacy is concerned with teaching and learning about the whole range of information sources and formats. Information literacy forms the basis for lifelong learning. It is a set of abilities requiring individuals to recognize when information is needed and have the ability to locate, evaluate and use effectively the needed information according to Association of College and Research Libraries. The American Library Association's Presidential Committee on Information Literacy final report states that to be information literate, a person must be able to recognize when the information is needed and have the ability to locate, evaluate and use effectively the needed information. It enables learners to master contents and extends their investigations to become more self-directed and to assume greater control over their own learning. The first step in the information problem solving process is to recognize that an information need exists and to define that need. The student should be able to A. Recognize different uses of information, that is occupational, intellectual and recreational. B. Place the information needed within a frame of reference, that is who, what, when, where, how and why. C. Relate the information needed to prior knowledge. D. Formulate the information problem using a variety of questioning skills, that is yes, no, open-ended, etc. Steps in information literacy strategies. 1. Knowing the requirements. The first step in the information literacy strategy is to clarify and understand the requirements of the problem or task for which information is sought. The basic questions asked at this stage are: what is known about the topic, what information is needed and where can the information be found. Number 2, locating. The second step is to identify sources of information and to find those resources. Depending upon the task, the sources that will be helpful may vary. Sources may include books, encyclopedias, maps, almanacs, etc. Sources may be in electronic, print or other formats. Number 3, selecting or analyzing. The step 3 involves examining the resources that were found. The information must be determined to be useful or not useful in solving the problem. The useful resources are selected and inappropriate resources are rejected. Number 4, organizing or synthesizing. It is the fourth step that information which has been selected is organized and processed so that knowledge and solutions are developed. Examples of basic steps in this stage are discriminating between fact and opinion, basing comparisons on similar characteristics, noticing various interpretations of data, finding more information if needed, organizing ideas and information logically. Number 5, creating or presenting. In step 5, the information or solution is presented to the appropriate audience in an appropriate format. Types of information literacy. Computer literacy. Computer is a tool that facilitates and extends our abilities to learn and process information. Computer literacy is generally thought of as familiarity with a personal computer and the ability to create and manipulate documents and data via word processing, spreadsheet databases and other software tools. Network literacy. Network literacy is the ability to locate, to access and use information in a networked environment such as the World Wide Web. Digital literacy. Digital literacy is the ability to understand and use information in multiple formats from a wide range of sources when it is presented via computers. It is the awareness, attitude and ability of individuals to appropriately use digital tools and facilities to identify, access, manage, integrate, evaluate, analyze and synthesize digital resources, construct new knowledge, create media expressions and communicate with others in the context of specific life situations in order to enable constructive social action and to reflect upon this process. Visual literacy. Visual literacy is defined as the ability to understand and use images, including the ability to think, to learn, to express oneself in terms of images. Media literacy. Media literacy is the ability of a citizen to access, analyze and produce information for specific outcomes. Those who advocate media literacy recognize the influence of television, motion pictures, radio, recorded music, newspapers and magazines have on us daily. Information literacy standards. In school education, national standards of the American Association of School Librarians that reference information literacy and are inclusive of national content standards include: 1. The student will access information efficiently and effectively. 2. The student will evaluate information critically and competently. 3. The student will use information accurately and creatively. Association of College and Research Libraries, a division of the American Library Association, released the Information Literacy Competency Standards for Higher Education. There are 5 standards which are directly linked to a host of performance indicators. These standards and performance indicators are often considered the best practices against which institutions of higher education can implement and assess information literacy programs. The standards are: Standard 1, The information literate student determines the nature and extent of information needed. Standard 2. The information literate student accesses needed information effectively and efficiently. Standard 3. The information literate student evaluates information and its sources critically and incorporates selected information into his or her knowledge base and value system. Standard 4. The information literate student individually or as a member of a group uses information effectively to accomplish a specific purpose. Standard 5. The information literate student understands many of the economic, legal and social issues surrounding the use of information and accesses and uses information ethically and legally. These standards are meant to span from the simple to more complicated, or in terms of Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, from the lower order to the higher order. The lower order skills would involve, for instance, being able to use an online catalogue to find a book in an academic library. The higher order skills would involve critically evaluating and synthesizing information from multiple sources to a coherent interpretation or argument. There are 5 standards and 22 performance indicators for assessing information literacy competency. The standards focus upon the needs of the students in higher education at all levels of education. The standards also list a range of outcomes for accessing students' progress towards information literacy. These outcomes serve as guidelines for faculty, librarians and others in developing local methods for measuring students' learning in the context of an institution's unique mission. Need for information literacy study. Research and development activities in information literacy have been focused on education both in schools and in higher education. Especially in the last 20 years, library scientists have advocated the importance of information literacy and have developed standards especially for application in higher education. The focus of information literacy research has often been primarily on universities. There is evidence of engagement by teachers and academicians with the implications for pedagogy of the changing nature of information resources and information use, but equally there is a recognition that more needs to be done to transform education into a form suitable for the preparation and continuing education of peoples in the information age. This is particularly so as some policy makers have focused only on the prerequisite task of acquiring the skills to use new information communication technologies. Information literacy includes wider issues about the ways in which technologies frame access to information and the skills needed to interpret and use information effectively. The wider corpus of information literacy needs to be understood and promulgated in order that the advantages of the information society can be realized. The essential difference between ICT skills and information literacy is illustrated by the distinction that can be made between receiving and transmitting information using ICT and the process of transforming information to create new knowledge using information literacy before transmitting the new information. Information literacy and libraries. Library and information professionals aim to ensure that all persons throughout the world to avail the same opportunity and participate in the information society without any hindrance to physical, mental, regional, social or cultural barriers. Information literacy recognizes that the library professionals, educators and users need to work at their ability to be information literate over a lifetime. It encompasses the sustained ability to acquire and use information as appropriate to any situation within and beyond the library, both locally and globally. It involves an array of competencies appropriate for individuals and groups to survive and function successfully. It covers all forms in which information is communicated and carried, like visual, textual and sound, and all forms by which human beings process information, including braille, sign language and oral traditions. Library professionals and special educators should not only be adequately information literate, but also must develop teaching abilities beyond that of basic user education or user instruction programs in order to include new kinds of outreach activities. Library information professionals will be able to know that a need has arisen to create a special collection. The uncertain quality and expanding quantity of information also pose large challenges for society. Sheer abundance of information and technology will not in itself create more informed citizens without a complementary understanding and capacity to use information effectively. An information literate person is seen to have the ability to recognize when he needs information and to identify, locate, evaluate, organize and make effective use of that information to resolve issues and problems. Basically, information literacy provides the foundation for lifelong learning, which is increasingly viewed as a fundamental human right. UNESCO refers to the importance of information literacy in terms of capacity building. That is, everybody should have the opportunity to acquire the skills in order to understand, participate actively in and benefit fully from the emerging knowledge societies. The 2003 Information Literacy Meeting of Experts in Prague identified information literacy as a powerful community tool that facilitates access to information that has real impact on its health, wealth and well-being. Information literacy skills are vital to future success and therefore, information literacy skills must be taught in the context of the overall process. Instruction in information literacy skills must be integrated into the curriculum and reinforced both within and outside the educational setting. The researchers are the generators of new information. They recognize the need for information, collect the data, analyze the data and generate new information. The researcher who is not an information literate cannot generate new information. They must know when the information is needed, how it is collected and from where it is collected and how it is processed and utilized. So, study of information literacy is very important for the library and information professionals, not only to provide better collection and best services for their clientele, but also to make the users information literate. Increasing attention to information literacy in recent years is partly due to the result of information overload, especially related to the growth of digital information, which has even caused a new ailment called information fatigue syndrome, and partly because of the new focus on student learning in a lifelong learning context. It has also created a need for a reconceptualization of the roles and responsibilities of library and information professionals in a new learning environment. Although there has always been a need to find, evaluate and effectively use information, the abilities needed to do so have just grown larger, more complex and more important in the information and communication technology environment. There is also a shift towards broader context to connect information literacy with an active, effective and responsible citizenship supporting personal empowerment and an enriched life through lifelong learning. And it is an important factor in the corporate sector. In this context, several reports have emphasized the importance of finding, evaluating and using information, although the term information literacy is not used. For example, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, representing 22 European and 7 other countries, has highlighted the role of information related competencies in several reports. The report, The Knowledge Based Economy, discussing the increasing demand for more highly skilled workers, includes the following observation. The knowledge based economy is characterized by the need for continuous learning of both codified information and the competencies to use this information. As access to information becomes easier and less expensive, the skills and competencies relating to the selection and efficient use of information become more crucial. Capabilities for selecting relevant information and discarding irrelevant items, recognizing patterns in information, interpreting and decoding information, as well as learning new and forgetting old skills are in increasing demand. Another report, Learning to Bridge the Digital Divide, put it this way. The skills of finding and interpreting information are seen to be more important than the skills of retention and recording, and the ability to seek and exchange information using databases and networks is not simply dependent on access to technology, but requires possession of the necessary technical skills. In addition, it calls for basic competence in being able to choose, classify and critically evaluate the information that becomes accessible. The report also expressed concern that many students lack experience in information handling and in effective independent learning, and encourages schools to develop the learning environment in ways that give students a more active role that support the ability to find information and transform it into knowledge, and provide skills how to find interesting, relevant and reliable information and how to work with it. The OECD's Educational Policy Analysis 2001 states, the knowledge economy is based on the production and use of information and knowledge. The ability to produce and use information effectively is thus a vital source of skills for many individuals. And again, the report Learning to Change, ICT in Schools notes, in a world with easy access to huge source of information, the skills of accessing, handling and using data and materials become more important than the ability to recall in detail ever greater amounts across many fields of knowledge. However, information handling skills are seen in this report as a part of digital literacy. To conclude, information literacy occurs at the intersection of teaching, thinking and learning within the broader environment of technology. We can define information literacy as a set of skills needed to find, retrieve, analyze and use information. Students should be prepared to apply the information skills they learn as students to all aspects of their lives as citizens, family members, employees and professionals. Information literate students have transferable skills from their formal education they can use throughout life as a means towards continued learning. The various efforts on behalf of information literacy represent an extraordinary convergence of several forces concerned with educating accrediting agencies, state legislatures, employers and university administrators, faculty and librarians. In addition, it reflects some of the most progressive thinking on pedagogy. It takes into account the changes brought both in the academy and in the society of which it is a part by the rapid development in computer technologies. But despite all of these forward-looking elements, information literacy also looks back. It is founded upon some of the oldest goals of education to inculcate a spirit of critique and independence of mind. It is becoming a more important part of school education. It is also a vital part of university level education. In our information centric world, students must develop information skills at an early stage of education so that they are prepared for post-secondary opportunities, whether that be the workplace or in the pursuit of education. Here are some assignments to work on. 1. Define the concept information literacy. 2. Explain the elements of information literacy. Explain the standards of information literacy. Here are some references for future use. Information literacy, a literature review, retrieved from www.learnhigher.mmu.ac.uk by Zakowski Paul. Information literacy competency standards for higher education, retrieved from www.acrl.org by Association of College and Research Libraries. Information literacy, retrieved from www.ala.org by American Library Association 1986. Computer literacy, retrieved from www.acrl.org by ACRL 2000. Network literacy, retrieved from www.acrl.org by ACRL 2000. Thank you for watching this session. See you next time. Until then, bye.